Call to order the meeting of the Board of Directors for Elton Butte Irrigation District for Wednesday, June 11th, 2025. Mr. Estlin, would you please give the
Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this opportunity to come together. Father God, we ask for your guidance, direction to lead this board in every decision they make today, Father God. We ask that, Father God, you bring rain to us this summer, Father God, to wet up this dry land, Lord. We ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Garai, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. We will start with introduction of guests.
I am Gabby Benjamin.
Juan Fernandez, USBR in El Paso.
Aaron Byron, EBID. Rose Fierro, Auditor.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, would you please announce those that are present online?
Certainly, Mr. President. Present online, we have Stephen Hernandez. We have C. Owens from NMOSE. We have Delise Maciel from EBID. We have Dr. Phil King. We have Ryan Serrano. We have Cheryl Smith with OSE, Sky DeVore, and Tammy Dion from EBID.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. First item on the agenda is the approval of the board minutes for May 28th, 2025. Do we have any additions or corrections? Hearing none, I'll accept the motion to approve the minutes of May 28th, 2025.
I move we approve the minutes of May 28th.
I have a motion from Director Garai, seconded by Director Christ, to approve the minutes of May 28th. Any further discussion? Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the President, the ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. That brings us to Resolution 2025-01A, Open Meetings Act Resolution Amendment. Mr. Smith, who is taking this?
I gladly will.
Mr. Smith.
As was discussed at, I believe, the last board meeting, board contemplated no longer needing a second board meeting each month. So this is an amendment to our Open Meetings Act resolution, removing the requirement to hold a second board meeting on the fourth Wednesday of each month.
You have the resolution in your board packet. I support the resolution. I believe we've gotten to a point that our single board meeting will be slightly longer, but we're conducting all ordinary business within about an hour at that second board meeting. So it should be less than an hour that we're adding to this regular board meeting. And these meetings have gotten shorter as well. Any other discussion?
And Mr. President, just to note, it applies starting in July because there's the training set into the June board meeting. The coming weeks would still take place.
Thank you very much for that clarification. We do still have the second board meeting in June. Any other discussion?
I move to approve resolution
2025-01A.
Second.
I have a motion from Director Rosa, seconded by Director Clayshaw to approve resolution 2025-01A. Discussion. Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any of the present, the ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. Starting in July, we will be back to a single board meeting per month. That brings us to calendar of events. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. First item on the calendar of events is next week. The Special Master in Texas versus New Mexico will be here for a tour of EBID and EP1. He will be in our district on June 17th. I know they, Ryan and Michelle, whoever's coordinating that agenda, have been in contact with some of our board members to present at the different locations during the tour. One thing I want to make sure of is who is planning on attending in the event that we need to post a notice of potential quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. In discussion since the last board meeting, I believe the intention is for myself and Director Roby Rosa to participate in the tour on the 17th. That's the day that the tour is in our district. We will be in another vehicle, presumably.
So I think the plan would be to leave from here, and anybody, any EBID personnel, board members who will be attending, we can all ride together and meet the tour at the dam at Delta Dam.
Are there any other board members intending to participate in the tour on the 17th?
So I would like to note that Randy will be presenting, and Randy and his wife Kuka have been very instrumental in getting lunch set up for this whole tour, finding a location, food, everything for the 17th. So we owe Randy some thanks.
That is a heavy lift. Thank you very much. Randy, thank you.
Or Kuka, the old Kuka.
Make sure you put that on the record.
Director Garai, are you planning to participate in any more of the tour other than lunch and the presentation?
I believe that I'm on the agenda to present something about groundwater.
Aside from your agenda item?
No,
Okay. Any other board members desiring or intending to participate in the tour? So there's the decision. I will note that if we don't notice a quorum, we can't have a quorum present. So it is possible if you change your mind and show up at the tour, you'll be asked to leave. Or one of us will be asked to leave. The 18th, the tour is in El Paso.
We'll be leaving from El Paso.
It is my intention not to participate in the El Paso portion. I believe Director Roby Rosa is participating in that portion. In between, there's a reception in El Paso. What is the request for the reception?
I'm planning for permission to stay in El Paso Tuesday night.
So I believe, well, we're gonna need a travel approval with that. There's something wonky with it in that by our policy, El Paso is in the local area. What does that mean for travel approval? Anybody know? We need a room for both Mr. Smith and Mr. Roby Rosa in El Paso because the reception will go late. The tour will depart early.
David,
Mr. President, I had it in my head that had to do with recovery of mileage.
I agree.
That was my thought, was that it wouldn't be a reimbursement for mileage just for driving for El Paso, but I think hotel would just be through the travel policy. I think that's still acceptable.
Very good.
I think it's per diem.
Yeah.
Great.
so I believe we need a motion to approve.
Is there anybody else that is needed to be at the reception? I will plan to attend the reception and go home. All right, hearing none. There is a request for travel for the night of June 17th in El Paso for Mr. Smith and one board member.
I believe Dr. King is going to be attending.
I don't think we could travel for consultants anymore. What's the process on that, given the consultants pay for their own travel?
I believe it's governed through the consultant travel
Contract, okay.
Yeah,
So
they're not subject.
we don't need, we don't need anything there. What is the will of the board?
Move to approve travel expenses.
I have a motion from Director
Manager,
Schultz
board
to approve travel expenses for the manager and one board member for June 17th in El Paso. Seconded by Director Ludwig. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion is closed, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Opinion of the president, the ayes have it, the motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Smith,
Mr. President, the next item is a reminder that we will be having harassment training for the board at the next scheduled board meeting on June 25th, immediately following the board meeting. If for some reason a board member is not available to attend, please let Marilyn or myself know as soon as possible. So we can make that.
I want to continue to emphasize it is. Who's typing? Thank you, Madam Secretary, for reporting that out.
I can ramp people without training. How to do this.
So it is a mandatory event. Next, it'll be immediately following next board meeting.
That's it on that. Next item on the agenda or on the calendar of events is the NWRA 2025 Western Water Seminar, which is taking place July 29th through the 31st in Park City, Utah. And the agenda is in your board packet. I received an email from Steve Hernandez, and I think Steve is on, but he's not attending, and I don't believe anyone from CID is attending.
That's my understanding.
And I'm the other New Mexico representative.
PBACD, they have. Oh, they
Steve
do,
and I are
so
the board
you're the
members.
two representatives. Gotcha. Well, Mr. Smith, do you want to go?
First, I will.
So
We don't normally attend that, so do we?
are they establishing a new set of board members at this board meeting?
They are electing associate representatives, I believe.
Is that a new thing?
Yes.
So presumably that's a new thing from a change in the bylaws sometime in the recent past. Is that correct?
It is.
So,
Opinion in Albuquerque.
let me get back to the first question. Do you wish to attend, Mr. Smith? Or are you asking to be explicitly excused?
Frankly, I think I should attend.
Okay,
If Steve is not available, then I will.
so at least having a vote from the New Mexico delegation is useful. When there's a change, strange things can happen. That's being present, making your voice heard can be important. What is the will of the board for approving travel to NWRA for Mr. Smith? Do you need any staffers?
I don't think so. No.
Approving travel for the manager for the NWRA 2025 Western Water Seminar. Director Glacial.
So what is an associate representative? They're electing an associate representative. What is it?
So I can give my off the cuff answer. Okay. Those are members that don't represent a specific entity whose interests align with NWRA. So a specific entity would be Elton Butte Irrigation District, and we're in the irrigation caucus. There are individuals with interests in Western water, but that don't have a specific alignment in that way. So they can join the association, they can work with the association, and in this case, they are being granted a voice at the level, at the board level for the association. So at the risk of throwing poor Beth Bardwell under the bus, Beth Bardwell is a representative of the Audubon Society. They don't have a specific interest that aligns with NWRA, but she certainly is interested in water in the West. That potentially could be an associate member.
Okay.
I don't know the specifics of the bylaws of whether she would qualify or not, or that specific type of role would qualify. But that's an example of somebody very interested in Western water that doesn't have a
But not
aligning
associate.
organization.
Irrigator, yeah.
Yeah, or municipality, or it's generally irrigators and domestic supplies. Or specifically NWRA, not the irrigators, the irrigating agencies. So our district versus Family Farm Alliance, where our members could be members of Family Farm Alliance. I'm not an expert on NWRA's bylaws. That's my general understanding of it. Mr. Wrestling.
Mr. President, there's a couple of states, maybe more than one or two, that are not members of NWRA. But within the state, there are interested groups, irrigation districts, water, aqua is in the water association. Those kind of members could participate and join NWRA as associated members.
If my memory serves me correctly, California and Texas are two of them, are they?
Yes, sir, correct. At this point, I'm not sure. I believe there's a couple of others that are, but Texas and California for sure.
Did I misspeak on other interested entities? Or is that, do you understand that's also correct?
That's what I
Okay,
think is correct.
Gosh, I hate to throw you under the bus, man.
so what is the will of the board?
I move to approve travel for the manager to the Summer Western Water Seminar.
Second.
I have a motion from Director Rosa, seconded by Director Clayshaw, to approve travel to the NWRA 2025 Western Water Seminar to include all actual expenses. Discussion. Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion passes unanimously. Mr. Smith.
Mr. President, next item on the calendar of events is done.
Okay, thank you. That brings the next item on the agenda, which is the fiscal year 2024 audit report. I will note for the record that I received the audit report this morning. I have not reviewed it. Ms. Fiero.
But it isn't anything different from what we had once discussed. Okay, my name is Rose Fiero. I represent the law firm or the auditing firm of Fiero and Fiero. We are the ones that conducted your audit for the year ending December 31st, 2024, and I'm here to give you the results of the audit. My presentation will be brief, but at any moment you can interrupt me if you have any questions. And if you have any questions after this meeting is, I will always answer emails, telephone calls. There's a way to reach out to me if you have a specific question on the audit report. I'll leave that open because you may or may not have had a chance to go through the report. When you hire an independent auditor, you're hiring them for an opinion. And the opinion is whether or not your financial statements present fairly. It's up to the organizations, it's up to the entities to actually produce financial statements. But these financial statements, you never know what hands they're going to end up in and who's going to be making decisions on the numbers that are here, your assets, your equity, your change in your net assets. And so you have to have some sort of an assurance that somebody independently looked at your financial statements, so therefore issue an opinion as to whether or not they present fairly. And as an auditor, you're never going to find an auditor that's going to do 100% testing. That's not our job. That's not what we do. So we base our opinion on whether or not it presents fairly, the financial statements that have been prepared by the entity, by the organization. I will say that, can I pass this on here? The opinion itself starts on page 2. The opinion letter starts on page 2 of the audit report. And the opinion is that the financial statements do present fairly your financial position for October 31st, 2024. So somebody independent can look at, or somebody that's not, maybe not associated, even if you are associated with the entity, can look at these numbers and say, okay, we can rely on these numbers to make decisions. After the opinion, you go into what they call a management discussion and analysis, and that's really management's report. It's like a small summary of what the audit report says. So if you wanted to say, well, I don't want to read the entire audit report, you can take a look at the management discussion and analysis, and that'll give you kind of a summary of what the audit report says. That is on pages 5 through 10. Then we go into the financial statements, and I'll call to your attention if you want to flip over to the financial statements, page 11, which is your net position. We would know this in the commercial world. We would know this as a balance sheet. but there's a couple of interesting items on the statement of financial position of the organization as of October. First, I should have this marked, and there it is. Okay, so your financial position is that your asset position, your assets come up to 67 million. And then obviously the liabilities and your equity, your what we call net position, is also 67,000. Of your assets, 58,000, or excuse me, 58 million, which represents 86%, makes up, or 86% of your total assets that's made up of your capital assets, which is basically your infrastructure of the organization. Then your equity position is approximately 55 million, and which means that your liability position is only 11 million. What's interesting about your liability position, in my opinion, is that we have this thing on there called net pension liability. And you're like, well, what is that? What's that $7 million that we owe for a pension liability? And that basically is something that was instituted several years ago to represent that if the pension in the state of New Mexico, if it were to close and if everybody had to get paid out on their pension, the organization would have to come up with $7 million to do that. And each organization, each governmental agency has a requirement to now put that liability on your financial statement. It basically is an indication of how underfunded that pension plan is. So it's approximately 7 million, and your total liabilities is 11 million. So you're really in a good financial position if your assets are what they are and your liabilities are only basically $5 million. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay, I find that interesting. The next page is the other important, the financial statements are all important, but the next page is on page 12, which is basically your statement of activities. And in the commercial world, it would be known as a net income statement. And on this one, what I want to just point you to is that your expenses for the year were 9 million. And I hope you can see that on the statement, 9 million. And then your change in that position, which basically represents net income, was 2 million. So that meant that your income that you collected over the course of the year, for the year ending December 31st, 2024, was 11 million. So 11 million in income, 9 million in expenses gives you a net change in position, net income of basically 2 million. It's a kind of a funny layout and a funny way of representing it. And it's like, well, it's number one, it's landscape instead of portrait, but that's basically what that statement says. The notes follow the financial statements, and the notes are really important because it gives you detail of what some of these numbers represent. Like it'll give you a breakdown of what your capital assets represent. The notes are on pages 13 through 47. And then because you are a governmental agency or a part of the state of New Mexico or a governmental agency, we have to do what we call testing of your internal controls. Now, when we test the internal controls, our position is never to issue an opinion on the internal controls. The internal controls are the policies and procedures that you set up to safeguard your assets and to give you the ability to produce a financial statement. And so, but we never issue an opinion on the effectiveness of your internal controls. What we do is we issue any sort of we call to your attention any sort of weaknesses that you have in your controls after we've done our testing, material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, non-compliance with laws and regulations. That's the purpose of the testing of internal controls and a requirement. And so this particular year, you only had what I would consider one finding, and it is a repeat finding, and that's the finding that I believe the finding starts on page 53 of the audit report, and it has to do with travel and per diem. It gives you the detail why there was non-compliance with the travel and per diem regulations set forth by the state of New Mexico. It gives you the details of what you missed on it and why you were non-compliant with that finding. And like for instance, there were 6 instances where an employee was overpaid for travel. It gives you, it outlines in my bullet points here, it gives you the issues with travel and per diem. Now, I know your administrative staff can speak to the corrective action plan and what the organization has done to make sure that this finding gets corrected. I will also say on page 57, congratulations to the organization. You listened to what the auditor said from the prior year, because in the prior you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You had 6 findings in the prior year, all of which were resolved with the exception of the per diem and the mileage check. And so that was a lot. It took a lot of work on the part of staff. And, but you did work to get those issues resolved. And that's it in a nutshell. Does anyone have any questions, any specific items that they want me to address?
Thank you, Ms. Fierro. Questions from the board? Are there any questions from the public? I will simply make a comment. I appreciate the thoroughness of Fierro, and I am especially appreciative of all the efforts that staff have put in with the assistance of Fierro to resolve the 5 findings from last year's audit. And I look forward to further improvements in our district operations through our cooperation with auditors. Thank you very much, Ms. Fierro.
I will just add one other thing is, again, I would also like to appreciate, to extend my appreciation to the organization. There is a letter that each one of you should have received that basically says, because sometimes what the institution has found is that the management talks to the board or in the past management would talk to the board and they would say, oh, don't worry, we had our audit, we had a couple little things, but don't worry, we'll take care of them. And so, to combat that, the institution has required us to actually communicate with the board, and we do that in a letter to you. You all should have received that letter, and it just basically gives you some highlights of the audit reports. And we were here auditing, and these are the important things in the audit report that you should look at, in particular the disclosures. But it also gives us a chance to tell you that we had no difficulties with the administrative staff. Everyone was 100% cooperative, produced all of the records. There wasn't another set of books maybe hanging around in a closet or something. But they were extremely cooperative in our efforts to get this audit done. And so I appreciate that effort. And I just wanted to let the board know that the administrative staff did work very diligently in getting us all the records and everything that we needed, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Brings us to our next item of business, which is the water update. Good morning, Dr. Kay.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Let me get situated here. Can you all see and hear me okay?
Yes, and your screen's coming up.
Okay.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
be pretty brief this morning, unless you have questions. We, of course, started the release on May 30th, and so things have just recently started settling down. I'll talk a little bit about the river performance. But here's what we're looking at in terms of our status as of last midnight: 204,000 in Elephant Butte, 40 and change in Caballo. We've got 7,200 in Colorado compact credit, and something on the order, this is not a real current number, but pretty close, of 4,500 in San Juan Chama, which is unusable. So we've got 233,000 remaining in project storage. There is 20 of that we will not release. That is the compact credit and San Juan Chama water, but also minimum pools of 10,000 in Elephant Butte and 12,000 in Caballo. That means we've got a seasonal supply of about 280,000 acre feet. This is up a little over 10,000 acre feet since last month. 10,000 acre feet inflow from May into June is supposed to be the height of the spring runoff. And that's a pretty awful month of spring runoff, only 10,000 acre feet. There's about 500 acre feet per day coming in right now, but as I'll show you shortly here, that doesn't really account to much. That's just little arroyo flows that have kicked in with some of the recent precipitation we've had that I think you've probably seen some of that down there as well. This is what the river, excuse me, what the river is looking like, starting with Ottaway Gauge up at the top. Again, that huge disparity. Keep in mind that this is a log scale. There's a huge disparity between this year's runoff in the dark blue and the median for our spring runoff. This goes all the way up to Ottaway and even into Colorado. The snow melt, it was a lousy snow melt, lousy snowpack year and a worse runoff year all around. At the gauge at Albuquerque, they're kind of in the middle. Huge disparity again. You see some of these little bumps here recently. Those correspond to arroyo flows that came in. Down here at San Marcielo, which is right at the head of the Elephant Butte Reservoir, you see that for a significant amount of time since early April, we have been at zero dry riverbed. You see these little bumps here, those correspond to those arroyo flows. And so what you're seeing with that 500 acre feet of inflow, 500 acre feet per day of inflow that I mentioned, is just these little short bursts. They don't amount to much. And that's probably all we're going to see between now and the end of the November, December, if there's any water to move down from upstream storage at that point. Our precipitation, snowpack obviously is over, but our precipitation has stayed almost constant since last month, maybe bumped up 1% or 2% relative to average, but still we're looking at roughly 3/4 of average precipitation throughout the watershed for the water year, which goes back to October 1st. So it's a below average, but not terrible precipitation year. It is a terrible runoff year. Looking at the forecast for June, July, and August, this estimate was made on May 15th, so it's almost a month old. But you see that we sit here in equal chances of higher or lower precipitation going through the early part of our monsoon season. So no strong signal there. Definitely a signal on the temperature that we will be above average, and that is getting pretty routine. Our the drought monitor did not change. Our drought status is virtually unchanged from last month. This one was issued on June 5th, so it's fairly current. And you'll see that essentially the entire Rio Grande, excuse me, the entire Rio Grande watershed remains in some level of drought, from moderate down to creeping up on exceptional here in the lower end. Still an extreme, but I expect we'll make exceptional before the season is out. The seasonal outlook. Did I miss a slide?
Yeah,
Yeah.
3 back.
That one. Okay, thought I was getting to the end before my time. This is the advance. I don't know how I got past this. Pardon me. This is the advance on the initial release from this year. we started at Caballo at 7 a.m. on the 30th. We started with a release of 500 CFS and then bumped that up to 2,600 at 8 o'clock. Leesburg, we got there on the morning of the 31st. Mesilla, morning of the 1st. Corshane Bridge down there, going into the bottom of the Mesilla Valley on the afternoon of the 3rd. And then Mexico came on. So BAD is the Rio Grande below American Dam. That's basically letting water down to Mexico. And some of that was probably checked up at American Dam. But what you see here is the slope of these lines represents the average speed of advance through each of these reaches. And you'll notice that it goes from steep, fast, to less steep, and less steep. It slows down as you go down. And for you farmers out there, this is exactly what happens when you're flood irrigating a field. It slows down as it gets to the tail of the field because you're infiltrating water between the head where you've got the highest flow and then decreasing flow, pushing it as you go down. Same thing here. And in fact, we pushed it all essentially all the way down before we started diverting water. So the slowing that you see here is due to river seepage and filling the river channel itself. So the storage in the river is not a loss to the surface water system. The seepage obviously is. As of Sunday, we had a loss rate of about 800 CFS. This last Sunday, that is coming down. It's a little hard. It's kind of a fuzzy number, but I would imagine we're down in our loss rates now in the probably 600s at this point. And so, pardon me, I don't know how I skipped over that. I guess I just scrolled too fast. We do remain in drought, and that is expected to persist. And finally, just to summarize, only about 10,000 acre feet since the last month's report. That is just terrible for a spring runoff. It's basically a non-existent spring runoff. We did begin the release on May 30th. All is going pretty much according to plan. We do steer it a bit. That is, we watch how it's proceeding down and adapt to it. But we've got a pretty good hydraulic model of the initial advance that Dr. Blair did a lot of most of the development on. I helped with that too, to model the release, and that gives us a lot of predictive ability so that we can punch the water down to the bottom end efficiently, but not wind up with a big slug of water down there that's more than they can take. We can really tune it very finely as it goes down. And with the water masters and district managers, we get on the phone every morning at 10 o'clock and fine tune things just to make sure that everything's running right. I told you this last month, and I'll tell you again, the April 10th allocation is probably it. And if the April 10th allocation is probably it, the 6-inch allotment is probably it for the season too. Something very unexpected would have to happen between now and July 1st, I'm guessing, to make any change in that. So you can pretty well take it to the bank that we are done with allocation, and without any new allocation, we really don't have any more water to allot. One thing is that in our allotment procedure, we hold out 10,000 acre feet, sort of a reserve pool for Elephant Butte Reservoir, and we allocated down to that level. So without any more water coming in, and the fact that we did allocate down to that 10,000 acre feet, we will get to very low storage in Elephant Butte. I bring this up here because you're probably going to be hearing from boat people and the folks at the up in TRC about how low are you going to go? What I can say is I don't see how we avoid going really low this year. And by really low, back in 2018, we went down to about 58,000 acre feet of storage. I am pretty confident we will be under 40,000, and I could certainly see us being under 25,000 acre feet in Elephant Butte. And these are levels that we haven't seen since the early 70s or even going back to the early 1950s. So the thing that everybody's going to remember about this year is how low Elephant Butte goes. I would also caution you to start thinking about next year. If we run the storage that low this year, that means we will be dependent on snowpack and runoff in the 2026 snow season. If it's another year like the 2025 season, we could have a really exceptional 2026 and not in a good way. So with that, I will throw it open for any questions.
Thank you, Dr. King. Questions from the board?
Dr. King, there's no question. If I remember correctly, EP number one has some carryover from 2024, is that right?
They do, both districts have carryover from 2024.
Nobody's gonna have carryover this year.
Can you say that again?
Nobody's gonna have carryover this year, is what you're saying.
There may be some little accounting residual at the end of the year, but it will definitely not be much. There won't be much physical water. There will be even less carryover.
Thank you.
And I want to mention that there is still some uncertainty in that. I always hope for rain. And if it rains cats and dogs for 3 months, starting the 4th of July, there'll be water in the reservoir. Or there'll be some amount of water in the reservoir. Dr.
And
King,
as you saw, we have a neutral precipitation forecast. So that means it could rain cats and dogs, or it could be a monsoon.
so you're saying there's a chance?
Exactly.
So I want to mention that the images that you have there, Dr. King, are exceptional. Thank you very much for those.
Okay. Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
And I will turn it over to James, if James is out there.
Mr. Narvaez.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna present from my office just because I got all my files in front of me. And I don't want to keep your time looking for them over there. So here we go. Let's see, I'm gonna share my screen. Let me know if you can see it, if it's big enough or we need to zoom in. I'm gonna focus in on this section here. Back a little bit. Okay, just to give you a follow-up on Dr. King's advance there, let you know kind of what we did as we released. Again, we released just like we discussed and planned on May 30th. We kind of let that water go through that weekend, and we began to pick up water on June 2nd. June 2nd, we picked up water for the array, and we also picked up water for the Mesilla. We halted on picking up water for the Leesburg until June 3rd. So then this whole week going up into that weekend, kind of just incrementing our orders as our order for the canals as we begin to flush and then start to pick up orders. So we're kind of like now we're getting close to being pretty much at capacity here. And matter of fact, we're gonna tap capacity starting Friday. That's good for us as far as that's concerned, but it also means we're hitting our flat rate weekend, so we're gonna get them knocked out of the way this weekend. And then in between that, we'll be picking up big diversions that are on order. So just to give you an idea of what we have for today, as of this morning, we have 1,174 acres on order for the array, and with the diversion of 260 CFS or 500 acre feet. Leesburg, we have 3,063 acres on order. We have an order for 290 CFS. The east side is at 2,525 acres. We have an order for 200, which will be increasing that to 220 later this afternoon. The west side, we have an order on acres of 6,121 with the order at 540 CFS, which includes 130 CFS for Texas in that 540. Total demand is at 29 or 1,290 CFS or 2,559 acre feet per day. Just to give you a run on how the acres looked at the beginning of the season, and we did hit a peak, and we've already knocked that peak down. But we started off with the acres building up at about 8,600 acres on order. And then once they saw the waters predicted, the orders tend to go up. So we jumped up a little bit there to 12,948. Kind of incrementing along the line as they're seeing water, and we're actually putting more water in the canals. We did peak out so far, and I don't know if we're going to get any higher than this. We may tap to 20,000, but we'll see. Right now, the peak is at 19,779. That happened on the 7th. And this is kind of incrementing down, and you see a big jump down here. That's when we started picking up more irrigations. So we jumped down to 15,000, and as of I think this morning, we're at 12,983. So we're chipping away at that big demand, which is good. So we're on target there as far as a diversion. I'd mentioned that we're going to be going to capacity this weekend. This is what we're looking at for capacity. The array being 280 CFS. Leesburg going to 320. East side will tap out at 228, and we'll go to, on the east side, 580 CFS. More than likely, we'll keep this number around this area for the remainder of the week so we can knock down some of these acres, because we are anticipating another run of different crops. A lot of these crops that we're getting right now are pecans, but we anticipate seeing some cotton jump in there and other crops in there. Again, the flat rate weekend is scheduled for this weekend. These are the acre breakdown that we have for flat rate weekend, and typically what it costs us an acre feet to do the run. Knocking on wood, we don't have any ditch breaks. We have some minor runovers and those kind of things, nothing crazy. So far so good there. We just cross our fingers and keep that going. This is a quick estimate of what our deliveries have been up to date. These do not include everything, because we have orders that are running now that don't show up on the report until they actually get shut off. So these numbers are going to improve tremendously once we charge out the irrigations that are happening now. But so far, the array has delivered 228 irrigations to almost 5,000 acres. We delivered 1,052 acre feet. Leesburg, 363 deliveries to 5,200 acres with a 761 acre feet. East side 79. Again, it's definitely higher than this. We have a lot of orders that are on the board right now running, but this is what I printed as of today. 2,300 acres, 500 acre feet. The west side 137 deliveries, almost 4,300 acres, and delivered so far 335 acre feet. So this is the total year to date, estimated with a couple of days off because they're still running as we speak. But 2,600 acre feet is what we delivered so far. Any questions on this? Just today's report.
I don't hear any. Please continue.
Okay. So what does that mean for us as far as our targets to try to meet the end of the season, that kind of what we've been looking at? I just want to give you that this side of the report that I keep track of here as far as our target dates. These are the numbers that I put in as far as our diversions of what we've done so far.
Can you zoom in there a little bit more, James?
It's
You
hard to
bet.
see.
I sure will. How's that?
Perfect, thank you.
Great. I think we started, this is a hard number here, 82,400. That's what's required, but I think our actual allocation is 8,700. So, but regardless, we kind of use this number as our starting point, is what I'm doing my budgeting. So this is what we've done so far, and these are the actual orders that we actually put into our headings. There's going to be some post-processing we have to do still, but it's pretty close as a good estimate. So this is what we've used so far in yellow. As far as the balances are concerned, where we're looking at, so what does that mean? We're still on target as we discussed earlier this season. Right here around the 8th of July, we would have exhausted our allocation. So we're still looking at that 35 to 40 days that we talked about. So we're still on target there. Nothing's going to stand out there. I anticipate, like I say, we're going to have a big peak here, but it should start to drop down as we get through the week, and then it kind of balances off. Then the numbers tend to fall off a little bit, but so we should even out. So I still think we're on target. Nothing to worry about there. We'll look at it in another week, and we'll see how we're looking at it. We're charging out every week just to make sure, keep ourselves in check. With that being said, we'll start looking at last order days and kind of throw them out there. I know it's scary to say that already. We may have to look at that next week just because we're pumping out water quick as expected. But we may look at the last order day being around the 27th of June. It's just an estimate right now because we got to figure out, how we're doing for the rest of the month up until there. But I would say that it would probably be around June 27th will be our last order day. That gives us the remaining month of June, and then all the way going into July to deliver all the orders that are in the system. So any questions on the projections there?
Questions?
Mr. Device, I want to back up, so I'm a little slow to digest numbers. Can you back up to the screen that showed acres delivered and acre feet delivered?
Yes, sir.
So we only delivered 2,600 acre feet to 16,000 acres?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too, is not all of these are going to be included yet on the charge, because I have some running numbers that need to be processed. So you're not going to see it on there. It's just kind of more of a snapshot right now. And it's in the middle of the day, the last 2 days, because we kind of run on a 2-day system whenever we're charging out orders. So it could be definitely missing some acre feet charges. So it's kind of just a ballpark figure. I think we're closer to like 4,000, if you ask me. I think it's kind of where we're at. Also remember that sometimes if somebody orders 100 acres, they may only be watering 50. So this is actually a hard number. It's not the actual number. This could change depending on what they actually irrigate. But say they ordered an order early on in the season because they're trying to plan, but say they've already pumped some of it, for an example, it could be less of the acres. So there's kind of, these numbers are there as a ballpark, but we really don't know until the end when we actually finalize everything, just kind of give you an idea. So yeah, this stands out to me when I see only 80 deliveries over a week. Seems kind of bad. But then again, some of these canals actually have big acre farms versus, like, let's say the Leesburg in 3B, for example. This guy, 3B, has probably about 100 of these deliveries. Just as there's so many little tiny ones that are in there. So I don't hope that explains it, but it's kind of a ballpark figure. It doesn't really get finalized until the end of the week.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Narvaez, would you please go back to the diversion schedule that you were showing? My really only question on this is, as you're looking at the projections moving forward, your projected diversion amounts per day, they kind of bounce around, and I'm wondering how is it you're predicting that one day will be 1,200 and another day will be 1,250 and another day will be?
What I do is I've taken the past few years and I've just averaged them out. This is kind of what we do on an average, so it's pretty close. But we're going to get some peaks on there. Like I said, this weekend, this is going to go to 1,400 for a couple days. So yeah, that's what I do. I've just gone back over over the last few years of when we've been operating this type of June 1st irrigation season. This is kind of what we do.
I would ask management to start announcing on the website that the expected last order date is June 27th. I don't actually think that needs action from the board. That's an operational concern. If it rains a whole bunch, the date will move out. It's
Exactly.
unlikely for that to occur. And that's a dynamic enough item. We've set the season, we set the start date, we set the allotment. It'll run out as people order it. So without objection from the board, I would ask management to start making that announcement. Mr. Narvaez.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna agree with you that it's good to get that out there because I know it's the first weekend and we're trying to match everybody's schedules because everybody unfortunately is used to their pumping schedule. So we kind of had to try to fit them in this weekend, and they weren't all yet with everybody lined up to start to take surface water. So, but I think that's going to change. This here notice will put everybody on notice, and that's good for us, like I said, because we're more efficient when we got high demand and we can start pumping the canals out and getting the irrigations done. So it's a good idea to start to throw it out there for sure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Narvaez. I will mention to our members that are listening, if you have not already placed an order, you've got to have orders placed. You've got to start taking delivery of water. Our system loses water by the day. That is water that we cannot deliver to our members. Each day that it's running, it consumes an amount of water. If you are waiting, you are exacerbating the problem in a low supply year of how much water the system consumes. If you haven't placed an order yet, please get your water on order. Order it early, take delivery of it as rapidly as you can. Order regularly until you are out of water. Please do not save it to the end thinking I'll irrigate on the 6th of July. There's a very good chance you will not.
We can leave it for me.
Thank you. Anything else on the water resources update? That brings us to general administrative, the financial report. Ms. Byron.
Probably if I make it big, well, I can make it bigger, but then the screen will, all the data won't show. Good morning, quickly, this is from June 4th, your cash balance update. You can see the 3 years together, we are steadily increasing, which is good news from a availability standard. A lot of that is coming from our interest earnings and timing to an extent of our expenditures. There were no uncommon cash transactions from the last board meeting presentation to this one, but we did receive a fair number of payments as people decided they wanted what water that we do have. We are earning currently about 4.32% on our investments. So that's how our earnings are coming up. As you can see, our balance for the book is about 9.6 million as of a week ago. And I am available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Byron. Questions on the general financial report? Hearing none, is there anything else under general administrative? That brings us to the next item on our agenda, which is the infrastructure capital improvement plan for 2027 through 2031 and the accompanying resolution. Mr. Smith.
Mr. President, you have in your packet Resolution 2025-08, which is the resolution adopting our capital improvement plan. If you'll recall, we presented this to you at the last meeting and opened it for public input. Attached to the resolution, you will see the list of 11 projects that the infrastructure and capital improvement, or the capital improvement committee, identified as our top priorities for this ICIP, totaling roughly $55 million in project cost. And we need to submit this to the state by Friday.
Questions on the resolution? I will open it to additional public input on our resolution and ICIP plan. Is there any public input?
Mr. President, if I may, I'd like to commend
Mr. Smith.
JOA and Sky DeVore, our lobbyists, for their efforts in getting all this inputted into the state system, and to our engineering department for putting these estimates together on a very short timeline.
Thank you. Yeah, I will piggyback that. When I heard the deadline, I was like, we're not getting that done this year, but y'all did. Well done. Hearing no input, I bring it back to the board. What is the will of the board on resolution 2025-08?
I move to approve resolution 2025-08.
I have a motion from Director Rosa, seconded by Director Garai, to approve resolution 2025-08, adopting the fiscal year 2027-2031 infrastructure capital improvement plan. Discussion.
I would just like to commend staff and management for getting that done on such a rapid timeframe. Good job, guys.
Hearing no other discussion, discussion is closed. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the president, the ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Brings us to the manager's update. Mr. Smith.
Mr. President, my update is brief. As you're aware, we're running water. The only item I have on my update is I have been invited to attend the New Mexico Water Leaders Rio Chama Experience, which is a rafting trip down the Rio Chama with legislators and water leaders in New Mexico, July 11th through the 13th. They've asked me to speak on issues affecting water in the lower Rio Grande.
Are there going to be presentations on this rafting trip?
They are?
Are you having to overnight in the sticks?
Yes.
Mosquito.
So,
Thought you were clapping.
Just paddle the water down like
Yep.
this.
Push it.
I will mention that this is an excellent opportunity for our new manager to network with those who are influential in the world of water within the state of New Mexico. I would encourage us to send them on this trip. I would encourage him to attend. This is not the first time they've done it in a rafting setting. The idea there is to try to encourage those who are often in conflict over water to see each other as human, having all of the same hopes and dreams that they have themselves. And I think that this experience tends to do that. I believe it is worthwhile for the district to send Mr. Smith. And be sure to bring your PowerPoint for your presentation at the state.
Get in the raft with the guys that control the purse strings.
What is the will of the board? Oh, first, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, do you want to go on this?
Yes.
Okay. Before we send him off into the States. What is the will of the board?
What is essential, really?
I move to approve travel for, Mr. Smith to attend. What was it called in Mexico? Water
The
leaders
Mexico
experience.
Water Leaders Rio Chama Experience.
I second.
I have a motion from Director Rosa, seconded by Director Chris, to approve travel for the 2025 New Mexico Water Leaders Rio Chama Experience. I'm assuming there's also a registration fee?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
It will be likely one hotel night the night before because it starts at 8 o'clock.
For all actual expenses
All
incurred.
actual expenses.
For all actual expenses incurred. That is the motion on the floor. Discussion. Hearing no discussion is closed. All of those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the president, the ayes have it, the motion passes unanimously. Anything else, Mr. Smith? That brings us to the engineering and maintenance update. Rubio.
Good morning, no updates, just trying to keep up with the water and any repairs, anything that comes up.
I wasn't in the sea this past week, but I know they had a section of the lateral still torn up. Did they get that completed prior to the water, or are we just running it through half construction?
No, it's actually complete, so they'll be fine, they're, they have a aerial line that they're gonna be putting in place, and
Very good. There was also construction on University. What's the status of that?
that's ongoing, they got the pumps in place to feed the farm raiders.
Is it running?
Yes. Currently is, they're gonna remove that temporary pump and then place the permanent pump thereafter water season.
Very good. I can see them frantically trying to finish.
They were, they absolutely, they did a good job.
Good. Thank you for that report.
Sir?
Any other questions on maintenance and project updates? That brings us to the approval of the consent agenda. Mr. Gambo, are you covering that?
I can, so.
I would like permit number 82 pulled, please. Any other requests for anything on the consent agenda to be pulled? Hearing nothing, what is the will of the board on the consent agenda? I have a motion from Director Rosa to approve the consent agenda, seconded by Director Garai. Any discussion? I want to note how much I appreciate all of the aerial crossings, especially over the drains for fiber optics. It's a lot easier for our maintenance crews when that fiber is not in the ground. So thank you to the licensees for hearing us about the difficulties of putting fiber under our infrastructure. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Opinion of the president, the ayes have it, the motion passes unanimously. Mr. Gamboa, license number 2025-L-082.
It's Comcast people? Is that the one?
I believe so. Let me see if I can get to it in page 152. Thank you.
Yes. So it's license number 2025-L-082 Comcast Cable. The subcontractor is MTC. It's to construct, operate, and maintain a buried fiber optic line crossing the east drain.
That is the one. So the reason I'm asking this is that this is a very fiber optic line and it's crossing a drain. What is the width of the right of way, the east side drain there?
It ranges, it's usually about 150, 150.
Okay, so we're expecting it's about 150 feet.
Wide, yes.
Do you know what the designed invert of that drain is?
design invert, it should be in the packet. And the design, it's gonna be, I guess on the other hand, we're gonna have to look into the design invert because the sediment and everything that's on top, we'll have to, I can get back to you on that and give you the exact number.
Well, I think we're gonna be making a decision on this today. Here's my concern. Approximately 150 feet wide.
Yes.
Once you add 5 feet to the design invert of these drains, often that is a very depth of 20 feet over 150 feet of right of way. Does the licensee know that that is the requirement?
They do, they've actually done this multiple times, drains, laterals, canals. Majority of it be laterals and canals, really.
Laterals and canals are substantially shallower
Yes.
and the width of the right of way is substantially less.
And they are aware of where they need to be boring and the depth that they need to be at, within the EBID right of way.
Because I want to be absolutely clear, the requirement is 5 feet below the invert, and that's across our right of way. That's not for some portion of the right of way that they think is sufficient.
That's correct. It's EBID right away. So what they do, they pretty much come up to it, then they'll dive down and then make their way through and then come up with the line. But they are aware. I've had multiple conversations because we had 49 licenses for them. So I've had conversations about all these with them and they are aware of what the needs are for you, the requirements.
Very good.
Yeah, yes.
The reason I bring this up.
That distance, okay?
Yep.
The reason I bring this up is that is often a point that once that's brought up, they're like, what, we have to do what? Yeah, it's very deep in a very long way if you're trying to bore under one of our drains. If that is your only option, as long as they comply with that, it's within the keeping to the policy of
Yes.
our district.
Yes, sir.
I have no interest in granting a variance to that. What is the will of the board on permit 2025-L-082?
One more question, sir.
Director Clayshaw.
Will somebody from the EBID staff be verifying that they're compliant?
What is the will of the board?
I move to approve permit 2025-L-082.
I have a motion from Director Roverosa, seconded by Director Garai to approve license number 2025-L-082. Discussion. I just want to note that, you know, to emphasize the points I made. Any other discussion? Mr. Rubio.
If I may add, we'll take the design invert, add the 5 feet and make sure, we'll be out there to verify and make sure that they're at that depth.
Very good. I appreciate that. And for folks that don't know, the reason for that is drains have a risk of wash in. And when that happens, it takes the bank of the drain with it, which can then expose these utilities. Thank you. But it doesn't wash below the invert of the drain. And so this protects the utility and it protects those that are trying to correct a situation in a water emergency. Any other discussion? Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Opinion of the president, the ayes have it, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Gamboa.
Thank you.
Well, I'm getting back to page 1. What's the next item after the consent agenda? HR report. Is that you, Mr. Smith?
We currently have 81 employees. We have one current job opening for a customer service representative, someone up front to help Marty. We do have pending job openings for a diesel mechanic and a number of other positions that will be open for our dam and drain maintenance crews and to backfill those positions. We do have one board recognition this month. James is still on. I don't know if Sergio is here or had to get to work. Is James still there?
Mr. Narvaez,
Yeah,
are you on?
Yeah, sorry, he had to get going.
Okay.
Is there anything you would like to say, Mr. Narvaez?
Definitely, Sergio's been staple in the unit, Unit 3A. He's worked also in Unit 3B. He's celebrating his 30 years here. Great employee. I mean, he's still doing quite a bit of work for us as far as the 3 is concerned. Last year, he was doing a more of a rover detail because we had a different staff, and he was helping me out quite a bit there. Very versatile. He can run every unit that we got. He's been here, a very long time. I'm very appreciative of his hard work, and, I thank him every day because he makes these a lot easier for that unit for me.
Thank you, Mr. Arviz.
30 years.
30 years. There are a handful of employees that have been here as long as Sergio, and their experience forms the foundation of our district on which the rest of us rely in order to best serve the members of our district. I am grateful for Mr. Salinas' dedication to our district and the amount of his life that he has given to the members of this district.
And since he's here, we'll note that Joe's 2-year anniversary was on Friday.
Thank you, Joa. 42 to go.
That's all I have for the HR report.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Smith. I do believe that brings us to suspension and transfer hearing. So I call to order the board, sitting as a board to hear suspension and transfer applications. Board is convened to act upon applications by landowners in the district to transfer water rights pertinent to the lands within the district which are not suitable for irrigation or capable of being properly irrigated to other lands within the district. These applications are filed under section 73-13-4 of the New Mexico statutes. This board will decide if, within their judgment, the other lands within the district may be profitably and advantageously irrigated. The applicants are identified as listed on Exhibit A. The applicants were required to publish notice in any newspaper published within Doñana County of EBID taking action to consider a resolution allowing the transfer. The publication should have been listed, the publication should have listed the time and place of this meeting, listed the action to be taken by this board, listed a description of the move to and move from lands, and listed the reason for the requested transfer. Does staff have a copy of the notice of publication?
Yes, sir.
Were all of the required points in the publication?
Yes, sir, they were.
Was the last publication date made prior to this hearing?
Yes, sir.
We will now proceed with presentation by staff. After that, the board members can ask questions of staff.
Good morning. We have one water right transfer to present. It is 2025 WTS 006. Jonathan and Kelly Satriana is transferring 2.93 to Jonathan and Kelly Satriana. If approved, the front parcel will no longer have water rights and the two will have a new total of 9.28. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Questions from the board? At this point in time, the board will take evidence and testimony from the applicants or their representatives, or any persons who are here to protest the applications. We will proceed with any presentation by the applicants. After that, the board members and EBID staff can ask questions of the applicants. Would the applicants or their representatives introduce themselves? Hearing none, are there any protestants who wish to speak? If so, please identify yourselves for the record. Hearing none, are there any other comments? Hearing none, the chair will now entertain a motion to have a resolution to approve or disapprove the applications.
Move to approve.
I have a motion from Director Clay, seconded by Director Garai to approve resolution 2025 S&T 06. Discussion. Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Opinion of the president, the ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. I will ask that the resolution be formalized as called for by section 73-13-5 of the New Mexico statutes, and that the secretary of the board immediately certify and file with the state engineer a true copy of the resolution and action of the board. If there are any protestants who disagree with the action of the board, you may appeal this decision directly to the district court as provided under section 73-13-4 of the New Mexico statutes. The chair will now entertain a motion to adjourn the board sitting to hear the applications.
Motion so made.
I have a motion from Director Clay, seconded by Director Garai to adjourn the board sitting to hear suspension and transfer applications. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? President, the ayes have it, the motion passes unanimously. We are back in open session of the regular board meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, AJ. Waiting for the second page of that closed session. Are there any other open session items of business? Any other announcements? My agenda is not coming up. We have items A through G on our closed session agenda. I will accept the motion to go into closed session to discuss the agenda items. Closed session.
Second.
I have a motion for Director Roman Rosa, seconded by Director Clay to go into closed session to discuss the agenda items. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The opinion of the president, the ayes have it, the motion passed unanimously. We are in closed session and we will take a 10-minute recess. Madam Secretary, could you please pause the recording.
Anything weird?
Having no other items to cover in closed session, I'll accept a motion to come out of closed session.
So move.
I have a motion from Director Garai, seconded by Director Ludwig to come out of closed session. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Opinion of the president, the ayes have it, the motion passes unanimously. Is there any other open session business?
Motion adjourned.
I have a motion from Director Clay to adjourn. Seconded by Director Christ. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Opinion of the president, the ayes have it, the motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned.